Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter and on Vero at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to the New Year's Eve edition of the DCEU Daily. And today it's the year in review for the DCEU. Even though we've only had 2 DCEU movies this year, they're 2 movies to celebrate because these were 2 movies from 2 auteur directors who got to make their movies. Zack Snyder's Justice League has to be not only one of the best comic book movies ever made, but one of the best movies ever made. It's a 4-hour movie that goes so quickly, it's so beautiful, and it's justice for a director who was treated so disgustingly. And then you've got James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Bringing in James Gunn from the MCU to the DCEU was a huge thing, and some people were opposed to it, and some people like myself were very excited about it. I did feel that James Gunn's The Suicide Squad was a nailed-on billion-dollar movie because he's James Gunn from Guardians of the Galaxy in the MCU. The movie failed at the box office. We can talk about how it failed and why it failed, and at the time I explained to you all, I do believe that the Suicide Squad IP is not really fit for purpose. It is not a huge IP. So how did the first Suicide Squad movie do so well? Well, I never really know why people went to see that movie. But I'm going to tell you that it wasn't because of Harley Quinn, because Harley Quinn was in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. She was in Birds of Prey. Both movies not doing very well at the box office. But when Joker's in a movie, the movie does well. The Dark Knight, the Joker movie, you know, and the Suicide Squad. So you can see that the Joker pulls people in, but also Will Smith, a very popular actor, playing an iconic character as well. That helped. But actually, the theatrical cut of the Suicide Squad movie isn't a bad movie at all. Even though it urinates and craps all over a director's vision, I still think it's a very entertaining movie. But James Gunn's The Suicide Squad is also a very entertaining movie. It's a very good movie, and I like it. But when we look at the year in review, we have to kind of put the pieces together on how Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut happened. First of all, we have to give ourselves a big pat on the shoulder or back. I can't really reach my back, but yeah. If we didn't make kind of the optics look right for AT&T to even think about it, it would never have happened. They knew there was an audience, they knew they needed something huge for the launch of their streaming service, and for one reason or the other, in my opinion, they launched it a year too soon within the pandemic and everything, and they weren't able to have events for their new streaming service like Disney Plus were. So AT&T knew, because of the Release the Snyder Cut movement, there was an audience for the Snyder Cut. So first of all, we should all pat ourselves on the back for that. But without John Stankey at AT&T, you know, the Snyder Cut would never ever have happened. Ever. It was because of John. He gave the money to Snyder. He gave the 70 million to Snyder. He was happy for Snyder to make his movie. All the negativity and toxicity you had was from Warner Brothers Pictures. John wanted to restore the Snyderverse. John liked Zack. He wanted Zack to do his movie. And basically, John Stankey is still the big boss until David Zaslav and Discovery come in. So I do want to take this opportunity to thank John Stankey for the work he did and the support he gave to Zack and the fans. Without John Stankey, none of this would have been possible. And this really frustrated Warner Brothers Pictures because basically the Snyder Cut exposed Warner Brothers Pictures for the terrible decisions they made with Zack Snyder's original take on a Justice League trilogy. Toby Emmerich still being there, and it was an issue. Toby Emmerich wanted Zack to release the rough cut of the Snyder Cut in black and white, and Zack said no. And the problem Toby had, of course, the film had to happen because John Stankey wanted it to happen. I personally don't think John would have ever allowed a black and white rough cut to come out because this was about amplifying the HBO Max platform. And, you know, releasing a rough cut on a streaming service was never going to be allowed anyway, but they wanted people to think it was a bad movie and that they were right, you know, to cut the cords away from Snyder. Of course, they were wrong, because the problem with the inception of the DCEU began from the very beginning. When you bring an auteur to run a cinematic universe that you want a mainstream audience, families and parents to enjoy, you probably don't bring in an auteur like Zack Snyder. You bring someone in that you can control a lot more. It's a bit like Feige. He brought in Favreau, who he could work with for the first Iron Man film. And he did Iron Man 2. That didn't really work out too well for one reason or the other. When you bring in an auteur, they want to do whatever they want. It's the same situation with Matt Reeves' The Batman. You know, he said, listen, it's your IP, you can do whatever you want with it, but it's either my way or the highway. And this is how I've explained to you before why there's an Earth 2. It's a brilliant idea because you can have your central universe and you can have your Earth 2 as well, which is great. And so Zack Snyder's Justice League is a great achievement. So even, as I say, even though we only had 2 pieces of DCEU content this year, they were the 2 of the best films made this year. They were great movies, and as I say, they were an example, a demonstration of what happens when you allow a director to do whatever he or she wants. The thing is, you've got to be careful with what directors you allow to do whatever they want, because you can't just allow any crazy fucking director to take your platform, to take your IP and do whatever they want with it. It can become problematic, as the DCEU did at the beginning. But I personally believe that Zack Snyder's Justice League and Dune are the 2 best movies of 2021. Because I believe 2021 was a poor year for entertainment in general. Television, streaming, films, there wasn't a lot of good stuff there. And certainly Dune and the Snyder Cut are the best of the rest. But the rest are not that good. You see, in terms of comic book movies, the Snyder Cut and James Gunn's The Suicide Squad are far superior to any MCU movie. Facts. Spider-Man No Way Home is an exciting moment in cinematic history because you get all these things that you love. You love Maguire, you love Garfield, you know, you love Melina, you love Willem Dafoe. You love all that. It doesn't make it a great movie, but it's exciting to see those characters again. That's why that film is going to cross 2 billion when all is said and done at the global box office, but it shouldn't all be about the global box office. Now, Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut has been successful in every way, and when we look at the year in review for the DC Extended Universe, we mustn't forget that. It made a lot of money, it got a lot of people on HBO Max, and it sold a lot digitally and in hard copies. Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut on DVD, Blu-ray and 4K sold out very quickly. It was very hard for me to get a copy. I'm proud to say I've both got a digital copy on Amazon Video and a hard copy. So it's a great movie that made a lot of money. Far superior, as I say, far superior to the movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. When I look at Black Widow, in terms of a film, not a very, very good film. Shang-Chi is certainly an improvement. Eternals is very unique. I still don't think it's one of the best films of the year in any way, shape or form. And Spider-Man No Way Home was under the control of Sony. So it was under more of a control of Amy Pascal rather than Kevin Feige. Because you look at Kevin Feige's Marvel movies this year, as I say, they haven't been great because he gets a lot of credit. He's so overhyped. He has done an amazing, miraculous job creating this airtight, bulletproof franchise where no matter how ordinary and mediocre those films are, they always make money. You see, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a great franchise, but the DC Extended Universe is a franchise of great films, as I've said repeatedly on this channel. So I actually think when we look at this year in review of the DC Extended Universe, it's been a fabulous year. There's still lots of toxicity within the diverse fandoms, But it's not really about the fandoms, it's about the content. And is the content good enough? And you can't say that Zack Snyder's Justice League isn't a great movie. You can't say that the Suicide Squad movie by James Gunn isn't a great movie. The VFX in both movies, way above anything in the MCU, including No Way Home. The storytelling, they're both great movies. It's a major success. And this leads into, quite nicely, next year. Another auteur gets to do his own movie in his own universe with Matt Reeves' The Batman, Penguin series, and Gotham PD also being on HBO Max. So they're giving a director his own kind of world to play in. That says a lot about the people currently running WB Pictures. That's not Toby Emmerich, he's still there. That's Ann Sarnoff. I think she's doing a fabulous job with DC in the future of that franchise. I know that will upset people who stan Snyder, and I stan Snyder's DC Extended Universe, but as a business, as something that you want to be as successful as possible, you need to do something else with it, and there, unfortunately, are the facts. But in terms of this year, in the DC Extended Universe, I think the two movies they released were great, and going forward, I think we're going to have great movies. The Batman, Black Adam, the Flash movie, Aquaman, they're just great titles. And obviously we've got a Batgirl movie coming up. I don't know if that's 2022 or 2023. Nobody really knows. And Blue Beetle is a great project. You know, especially if it's going to be the movie, I think it's going to be as well. So I'm really excited for the future. But what I would say, looking at this year, is that two brilliant movies. You know, nothing's flawless. Nothing made by human hands is perfect, of course, and we can tear anything down we want. But I think this year's been great, because people will say, well, we only had two movies, but it's not about how many you've got. It's the quality of what you've got. And as I say, both those movies are brilliant movies you can watch again and again. They're both exciting movies to watch. Obviously, I've got a 50-inch screen, you know, Dolby Sound, or whatever it's called, right, Dolby Atmos, a brilliant experience. And I went to see the Suicide Squad in the movie theatre, even in COVID times, and it was a great experience. I always fight to be able to go and see these DC movies, because that's what I stand. And I'm kind of, even with Spider-Man No Way Home, I was okay with not seeing it in the cinema if that's what happened. But as I say, a great year for the DC Extended Universe. It's not about how much you do. You know, there was a lot in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, both on Disney Plus and in movie theatres, but a lot of it was very bland and forgettable. When you think about Hawkeye and you think about the other stuff on Disney Plus, it wasn't great. I thought WandaVision was okay and unique, and it did a good job. I think the rest of them are not very good and quite forgettable. The MCU is a franchise that's successful. You see, Spider-Man No Way Home hides the truth of 2021 for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There were a lot of problems, especially like, you know, Scarlett Johansson's legal battle with Disney and Bob Chapek and the mistakes he made, not making sure everyone got the same money within day and date. Something that Keeler and Warner Brothers made sure of. So that shows you that we can go on and on about Warner Brothers and all the things that they do wrong, but they also do a lot of things right. And the two movies they released for the DC Extended Universe set a huge precedent. I would imagine the day that the Snyderverse is restored will be a blue touch paper moment in cinema. And I think it's going to be restored. Zack Snyder releasing a picture of his first concept art of Rebel Moon looks absolutely stunning, very Krypton-like from Man of Steel. Those effects are still way above any VFX you see in movies today. Zack Snyder is an artist. He uses VFX technology as a paintbrush, and that's one of many things I like about Snyder as a director, a creative, and an artist. So those films like BVS and his Justice League and Man of Steel will always stand above other movies. And you know, we've spoken about next year, but because this year's, in my opinion, has been so good for the DC Extended Universe, as I say, it's not about box office, not for me. right? People will use the MCU against the DCEU and compare box offices. It's not about that. It's about quality. It's about your experience. Will you forget the experience you had watching The Dark Knight? The Dark Knight now has made less money than Spider-Man No Way Home. That doesn't really matter. It's a better movie. Will you forget the experiences you've had with these DCEU movies? They are better in quality than many, many MCU movies, because MCU movies are not made to be artistic. They're made to be a part of the jigsaw. They're made to be part of the jigsaw and for you to move on. There's a difference, and it's about what you prefer. I've mentioned before, I watch the MCU movies, I collect the MCU movies, I watch the Disney Plus shows, but there's a lot of problems with the stuff that they make. And in 50 years' time, you may remember the franchise, but will you remember the content? Will you remember Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Zack Snyder's Justice League, the first Suicide Squad, the Wonder Woman movie, Aquaman, Shazam, and the Joker movie? These are more memorable works of art as part of a franchise. Now, what they're attempting to do now is create kind of more of an MCU franchise to make more money. But also at the same time, we've got this Earth 2 that will actually create art under Matt Reeves. And who knows, other directors may get to play in Earth 2, other auteurs. That's my guess as well, which is great. So the DCEU going forward will have this MCU central universe, but it'll also have an Earth where auteurs can play in as well, which I think is great. With Matt Reeves, and then we've had Todd Phillips. Who knows where his Joker belongs, if it's in Earth 2 or if it's just in an Elseworld. I'm sure we're going to find out. But I think it's been an absolutely fabulous year for the DC Extended Universe. 2 movies were more than enough when you get 2 movies of the quality of Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut and James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. 2021 was great, but I believe you ain't seen nothing yet, because 2022 will be the year of DC live action. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. And I'll see you again tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. Until then, au revoir, goodbye, auf Wiedersehen.